Good morning, Mr. Hardy.
Morning.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Parker Hardy, Parkerhardy.
All right, thank you. How did you know Dee Warner?
She was my aunt.
Okay. And, excuse me, on Sunday, April 25th, 2021, were you told at some point that afternoon that she was missing?
Yes, I was.
Do you know approximately what time?
Sometime in the early afternoon, around 1 or 2 o'clock.
All right. Did you go anywhere in response to that?
Eventually, I made my way down to the farm, down to
The Munger
Warner.
farm?
Yes,
Okay. And where did you go when you went down there?
into the office.
And is that where they were watching the surveillance video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who was there with you, if you recall?
Family members of mine, my cousins,
Okay.
and also
Did
Mr. Warner.
there come a point in time that afternoon when you drove around the property with your mother?
Yes.
What were you driving in?
I was driving what we consider the Kawasaki Mule, like we call it a Gator, a
Okay.
utility vehicle.
Is that yours or from the Munger farm?
Ours.
And do you live nearby?
Yes, under a mile.
Okay. And that's your parents' farm?
Yes.
And yours also, of course?
Yes.
All right. And it was just the two of you. Is this also called a side-by-side?
It can be referred to as that as well, yes.
Does the Munger farm have a Kubota that's similar?
Same thing, just different brand.
Okay. All right, and you're driving around looking for Dee?
Yes.
And at some point, do you drive on the north side of the house?
Yes.
And can you point to that on the map behind you? Yep, thank you.
You want me to
The
state
north-
how
yeah,
I...
just identify the north side of the house.
Yeah, right here.
Okay. And where are you coming from in the side-by-side that you're driving?
This map doesn't depict it, but I was in my field, which is located back in here. And I came around, there's kind of a low spot right here where I could have come around. And I was just looking around in this junk area, and I made my way up around to the back of the house.
Okay. Did something catch your attention when you came around the back of the house?
Yes.
And what did you do in response?
I threw on the brakes and put it in reverse, and I observed some tracks behind the house.
Okay. And why was that notable to you?
Earlier that day, when I was down at the office and the Hummer was sitting down at the office, when I came back with my mother and was driving around in this Gator, the Hummer was moved back to the house, and it was on top of some JCB tracks that were pulled right up to the porch of the house.
Okay. And how were you able to identify JCB tracks?
We have a very similar machine, once again, just a different brand. It's called a Manitou, but it's exactly the same machine, operates identical to a JCB, and I'm very used to those tracks. I've run this loader for 15 years plus.
Okay. I'm going to show you People's Exhibit 12. Can you tell us what that is?
That's the back of the Warner house?
Okay. And is that what you're describing just now?
Yes.
Okay. And where were the tracks in relation to the house?
In your picture up on the TV, they would be on the left side of the screen, right where those brick paver stairs are, for lack of a better term.
Okay, so it looks like there's a set of stairs at the very right edge, and then there's another set of stairs kind of in the middle left. And
Correct.
which one are you talking about?
I'm talking the farthest to the left in your picture.
Okay. And could you tell how close to those steps the tracks led?
So the gravel is somewhat loose close up to the steps, and the tracks were right up to basically the pavers or the concrete. I can't recall what is exactly right there on the ground.
Okay. So
As close as they could be to the house.
thank you. Now, why was that notable to you? Why did you slam on the brakes and who cares, right?
It was the speed of the way the gravel was thrown from the tracks. Or from the tires, I should say. It looked like it was relatively moving fast. And also, it's a little bit unusual for that loader to be pulled that close up to the house.
If you were at your farm driving your equivalent JCB, and you had just forgotten something in the house, would you have driven right up to the house like that?
Objection, irrelevant.
This has to do with the reason that he made note of this event.
I would just need the objection.
You said that at the time, the Hummer had been moved back to the house, is that correct?
Can you ask that again?
Sure, I want to make sure I understood something you said a minute ago. Did you say that at the time you're observing these tracks leading up to the house, that the Hummer is there also?
My second visit to the farm that afternoon, the Hummer had been moved back to the house.
Okay.
And when I saw the tracks, the Hummer was on top of the tracks.
Okay, thank you. So People's Exhibit 19, is that the Hummer?
Yes.
Okay, and where is it in relation to where you saw it parked that afternoon on Sunday?
Very close, but if I had to be a little bit more specific, I think it was farther to the left.
Even closer to the grass strip?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're saying the tracks went right under where the Hummer was parked?
Correct.
This photo is, just for the record, from Thursday, April 29th. Did you check the seat of the Hummer to see what spot it was in?
I did.
And what did you find out?
It appeared to me that it was in the position of somebody who was shorter.
Okay. Do you know that, so if the JCB had gone as far up as you were indicating, and it put the bucket out, where would the bucket be?
The bucket would be clear up on the porch, almost to the door.
All right, turning to Tuesday, the 27th. Show you a clip here. And ask you if you recognize that piece of machinery.
I do.
And what is it?
That is me driving my corn planter into the Warner farm.
Okay. And for those of us who are not farmers, what does a corn planter do?
It puts seed corn into the ground. This is a 24-row planter. It's quite large.
And why were you bringing your equipment down to the Munger farm that day?
I had trouble with some fertilizer that I had purchased that spring. It wasn't traveling through the planter correctly. It happens when it can be cold. And so we had contacted Dale asking if we could purchase some fertilizer from him that morning in order to get the planter going.
Okay. The timestamp on this video is 7:07 p.m. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes.
Okay. And where do you go with the planter?
I am headed into the sprayer barn.
Okay. And why would you take the planter to the spray barn?
I didn't have a tanker available at the time to offload fertilizer into, so when we talked to Dale and agreed that we would come down and purchase some fertilizer, it was easier just to load right onto the planter.
Okay. So you're fertilizing as you're planting corn, is that right?
Correct. It's a starter fertilizer. It helps the corn grow into the ground faster, grow roots.
Okay. This is a nighttime photo, but is that the sprayer barn?
Yes.
Okay. And in People's 175, this photo was taken on 4/27/2021 later that evening. Is that, you recognize that?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
That's the inside of the sprayer barn. I've been in there many a times loading.
Okay. Can you describe the big silver tanks, what those do or what they are?
The big stainless steel tanks have different types of fertilizer for different applications in them.
Okay, so that's what you would fill up your fertilizer from, those tanks?
Yes, there was a computerized pumping system that would, you could program what fertilizer you needed into it, and it would then pump it onto whatever piece of equipment you pulled in there.
Okay. And did you see that tank that's in the photo when you pulled in?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did that strike you as odd?
Yes, it did.
Why?
It was very unusual for an anhydrous tank to be in that condition on the Warner farm. They were typically very well kept and painted. And also, there was never, to my recollection, a anhydrous tank in that building the multiple other times I'd been in there.
Okay.
You also can't fill those fertilizer or those anhydrous tanks from that barn.
Okay. Now, was Dale on the property while you were at that point in time, or shortly after?
Yes, the video clip of me pulling in, he's actually meeting me in the barn.
I'm going to play this a little further. Do you see that red farm implement?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is a versatile quad track,
Okay, and do you know who it belongs to?
Dale Warner.
Did you see this arrive while you were there?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you know who normally operates that piece of equipment?
Mainly Dale Warner.
Does that piece of equipment involve fertilizer at all?
Yes, it does. It is also a corn planter.
Okay. Let this play for another minute. We're at 7:40. Now skipping to 7:54. And what is that?
That is the versatile leaving the farm.
Just gonna let it play a few more seconds here. Okay, now we're at 7:56. Do you see that individual walking?
I do.
And do you know who that is?
Me.
And that's at 7:56, if I didn't say that already. Did you ask Dale about that rusty tank?
I did.
And what did he say about it?
He told me that he had some of his employees bring in some tanks at night or at some point so that he could paint them at night. He said he was having trouble sleeping because he was worried about where his wife was.
Okay. And did he say anything about this particular tank?
He said that I was alarmed on why, out of all the tanks, that one was in there, in the condition that it was in, and so I kind of chuckled and asked, why do you have this in here? And that's when he stated about painting the tanks in the middle of night. And I'm sorry, did I answer?
Did he say anything about whether, whether this was the tank that he had intended to be moved up there?
No, this was, once we had that initial conversation, he said, but I didn't want this tank. I wanted one of the ones on wheels and one that I just needed to do some minor painting on.
Okay.
So that, he then proceeded to tell me that they were going to move that tank out.
I think nothing further.
Good morning, Mr. Hardy.
Morning.
My name is Mary Chartier. I have a few questions for you this morning. So, you had been to the Munger property numerous times, is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
And your last communication with Ms. Warner, your aunt, would that have been Thursday or Friday, so April 22nd or April 23rd, to the best of your knowledge?
It was Friday.
Friday? And did
That
you?
was,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was my last physical communication with her.
Last physical communication, did you see her in person?
Yes, that's,
Would you tell us about that?
yes. I was there getting an anhydrous tank. We were spreading and or applying anhydrous like everybody else was at that time. And I had pulled up on the scale to weigh a tank, and she pulled in to fill out my weigh ticket.
When you say you were moving the tank to weigh it, did you fill up your own tank, or did someone from the Warner businesses fill it up for you?
Someone from the Warner businesses fills the tanks. We just come and get them.
And then you come and get them, and then do you attach them to your truck and then go on the scale and weigh it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then when you bring the tank back, then you weigh it again, and that's how you're billed by how much you use?
If myself or one of my employees is the one that take the tank from the field back to the Warner farm, we would sometimes scale it out, but most of the time one of the Warner employees would scale it out.
And by scale it out, do you mean put the tank on that big scale and then see how much was used?
Yes.
Now, when you were communicating with Ms. Warner, did you ask her if you should just write up a ticket and leave it in the office?
I don't recall.
Would reviewing notes from your interview refresh your memory?
Sure.
Page 135. It's the third paragraph from the bottom on page 135. Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
So is it accurate that you were loading anhydrous tanks and you texted Ms. Warner to see if she wanted you to write up the ticket and leave it in the office?
Yes, but I honestly don't know why it states that I was loading anhydrous tanks, because I've never loaded anhydrous tanks at the Warner farm myself.
So I guess to be clear about that, when you say loading, you're talking about putting the fertilizer or the chemicals in the tank. That's what you think of loading?
In this context of what I just read, what I meant by loading was grabbing it with my truck.
So you
I
grab,
didn't mean physically loading the fertilizer on it.
so you loaded the tank to your truck, you texted your aunt to say, do you want me to write up a ticket and put it in the office? Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And the ticket would be, you'd go into the office and you'd write, you took a tank, is that correct?
We would write the tank number. Each tank had a unique number on it. And because our tanks were from our own farm, we had our own logos on them. So it would say Hardy and then the unique number.
And then, but Ms. Warner said no, and she came out and she did that for you, is that accurate?
Yes.
Then ultimately you texted with your aunt, but as you indicated, that was the last time the two of you physically communicated.
That day on Friday, yes.
Now, did you have to announce you were coming on to fill the tanks, or could you come on and get a tank that had already been filled up?
I was allowed to come in anytime.
When you talked about April 25th, is it accurate your mom came to your house to indicate to you that your aunt was missing?
No, well, I guess, can you ask that question again?
Sure. So at some point, did your mom come to your house to notify you that your aunt was missing?
No.
Okay, so tell us how that happened.
I was called by my father.
You were called by your father. At some point, did your mom come to your house?
I don't recall. I remember talking to her, notifying me that she was looking for Dee.
So before you ever went on to the Munger property, you knew that your aunt was missing?
Correct.
And when you were communicating with your mom, is it accurate that you saw Mr. Warner drive by your house in the sprayer?
I believe so, yes.
And you were concerned about Ms. Warner, the possibility that she may have taken her own life, correct?
Based on the state that I last physically saw her in, yes.
So you and your mom drove around, essentially coming from your property onto the Warner's property.
Yes,
Is that, and those properties are right next to each other, is that accurate?
they're connected.
So when you first saw the Hummer, it was where? I was a little confused by your testimony.
I saw it down at the office building.
So you first saw the Hummer at the office, and then later on, you saw the Hummer in back of the house, is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
When do you think that you first saw the Hummer at the office?
It's been quite a few years. I'm having a hard time remembering exact time. At some point in the mid to early afternoon.
So mid to early afternoon is, what do you think, 12, 1 to 3? What would you say time-wise?
I remember the only time I can be more accurate with is I remember getting a call that they were looking for Dee somewhere around noon to 1 o'clock.
And so then ultimately, when you made your way to the Warner property, you saw the Hummer in front of the office, then later on you saw it in back of the house. Is that fair?
Yes,
Now, the JCB tracks that you saw them pull up to the house you indicated,
yes,
but you didn't see any reverse tracks, correct?
no,
Is that accurate? I'm sorry.
yes,
And that was noticeable to you, correct?
yes.
The JCB with the front loader, the scoop up, right? How far does that scoop go?
I guess I'm not understanding your question.
Sure, so you said you're really familiar with that piece of equipment. So if I'm in the JCB with the scoop, how high can that scoop go? Can it block my view?
Yes, it can.
Now, moving on to April, what you indicate is April 27th, 2021, you saw that rusty tank that we just saw in the spray barn, correct?
Correct,
And that's barn number or building number 7 on that map, accurate?
correct.
You didn't see any kind of a non-factory weld on that tank, correct?
No, I did not.
And you would have noticed that if you had.
I didn't spend a lot of time observing the specifics of the tank, just the overall. I had to pull around the tank when I pulled in the barn because it was in my way. And all I really noticed is it was a rusty tank.
An old rusty tank with, again, not that you noticed a non-factory weld, correct?
No, ma'am.
And you didn't see, other than that, you didn't see Mr. Warner behaving unusually with that tank, you'd agree, correct?
Correct.
I have no additional questions. Thank you, sir.
Just want to know if you're certain that when you talked to Dale about that rusty tank that was in the spray barn, that he said that he wanted the employee to bring one that was on wheels. Are you certain about the on wheels part?
I don't recall the exact statement, but I thought that's what was in there.
You remember talking to the Michigan State Police in November of '22?
I do.
Do you remember what you said to them about the rusty tank versus the other one?
What do you mean by other one?
The one that they wanted brought instead.
All that I remember is that he, in my mind, quote, said, but I didn't want this one. I wanted one that was less painting, or less to paint and on wheels.
Okay.
That's what I remember. I could be wrong.
Okay. If I played that for you,
Sure.
okay. You have to. You just want to play for him.
What time, Mr.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
This is at 13:24.
Thank you.
having trouble playing it other than over the speakers. If I could just have a minute, Your Honor.
Okay.
Are you playing it over the speakers, you said?
Well, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't.
Oh,
I was trying to get it so that it's not over the
Okay,
speakers.
great, just want to make
Yes,
sure.
yes. What's that?
He came in.
Thank you.
Like he always does. Just to make sure I was doing okay for what I thought. And this old rusty hydrous tank without any wheels is sitting there. I said, what the hell's that thing for? This thing had looked like it'd been in the bottom of the lake forever. It wasn't weird. That part was weird. I said, what the hell are you doing with that? Oh, he said, I fucking haven't been able to sleep at night. So I told the guys, which I thought to myself, yeah, I bet you haven't been able to sleep at night. He said, I told the guys to bring in a hydrous tank around. We paint them regularly just so they can stay nice and don't get all rusty. So he said, I told the guys to bring in a hydrous tank around and I, sandblast it off or scrub it off and paint it. I said, I just come out here, just clear my head, paint during the night. I'm like, all right. But it's like, I didn't mean for them to grab that one. Like this was some real bad one that they brought up here. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just grab the tank nails and have them grab it? Whatever. It was weird. I think the most significant part of that story was the fact that he couldn't sleep at night and he was supposedly painting.
Okay. So, in November of 2022, when you described this to the state police, did you mention wheels at all?
I do not.
Okay. So, does that refresh your recollection as to what Dale told you?
Yes,
Did he mention did he mention a tank or a tank on wheels?
just a tank.
Okay, so what he wanted was a different tank other than the rusty old one.
Objection leading.
Can you tell the jury what he actually said he wanted other than the rusty old one?
He just wanted a different tank brought in. Never mentioned wheels.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further, thank you.
Are we excusing Mr. Hardy from his subpoena this time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. You are free to go. You're welcome to stay in the courtroom from this point on if you want to. Thank you. Who do people like to call as the next